Hi, good morning, everyone. Well, it is Thursday, March 6th, and we are now 2 days out from the speech that Donald Trump gave as a joint address to Congress on Tuesday night. And I wanted to walk you all through kind of what I heard and what some of us had discussed leading up to the speech. You know, these speeches are important because they are supposed to deliver essentially the state of our country and what the person in the White House, whoever it is, what challenges they see ahead, what opportunities, what successes, and how we can best work together. But knowing Donald Trump and knowing what we've seen in our country over the last several weeks, these are not normal times. This is not a normal White House. This is not a normal Congress. And my view, and a view that I expressed not just to leadership, but to many of my colleagues, was that we could not and should not pretend that this address is normal in a normal time and a normal situation. What I anticipated was that it would be a very highly partisan address, and I also anticipated that it would be full of lies. And unfortunately, I was correct. And in thinking with a handful of my colleagues about what we should do, you know, leadership, our House Democratic leadership told us on a couple of occasions that they wanted us there. They wanted to make sure that we were there. The House of Representatives is the people's house, and that we should be there in our seats, and that we needed to maintain decorum. And I will tell you, I do agree that it's important for House Democrats to have been there that night. I've gotten questions like, why didn't a huge swath of you boycott? Here's what happens. We've done that before, actually. For the Benjamin Netanyahu address last year, I could not in good conscience go and listen to a leader who I believed was violating the laws of war. I felt like it was tacit approval of what he was doing. And so a large swath of us decided to boycott and to not attend. But here's what happens when large groups of us do not show up. Our seats get filled, generally with staff from the majority side. And then it looks, and you know, obviously their staff, members of their team will stand up, applaud, and the visual for that is that most, if not all of Congress agrees with whatever the person at the podium is saying. And so that was an important lesson for me about boycotting in large numbers. Does that mean I'll never boycott an address in the future? No, that doesn't mean that's my intention forever going forward. But I felt that in this first address from Donald Trump, instead of having our seats filled with staff from the Republican majority, we should be there to confront Donald Trump. And I will tell you, having lived through Trump 1.0, I learned back then that he will sometimes call out specific communities. And he has called out my community before. And so I felt like I needed to be there in case he said something about El Paso. So when, you know, many of us were chit-chatting and kind of trying to think strategically about the event, many of us thought we can't not be there because our seats will just be backfilled by Republican staff. But at the same time, we did not want, or I'll speak for myself, I did not want to engage in a way that we've seen from the other side of the aisle. Like some of my Republican colleagues who have jumped up and down and screamed as a way, you know, to show their objection to President Biden, for example. And so for me, I'll tell you what I landed on. I landed on trying to hold up a sign that said false. And here's the reason why I wanted to do that. one of the things that I have learned over the last 4 years is the incredible power of misinformation and disinformation. And I have learned and I have seen that the media, the mainstream media, is frequently either unwilling or unable to fact check Donald Trump. He just spews so many lies all at once, and he lies the way that he breathes. It's natural, and it happens, at a pace that is hard to keep up with. There are also members of other media in America, and there is on social media an amplification of those lies. And we are living through a really dangerous era on so many fronts in our country. Not just the backsliding of our democracy, which is happening at a rapid pace, but also the amplification, spread, and power of misinformation and disinformation. My choice was to sit there and fact check him in real time and to focus on the big lies and hold up a sign that said false every time he told a big lie. Impossible to do it throughout the entire speech because I felt like the calling out of big lies loses its power if you really just sit there through the whole thing with false. And so it was a way for me of doing fact checking in real time of the man who has the most powerful bully pulpit in the world, and a man who is leading the backsliding of our democracy. And I will tell you, it's in many ways a no-win situation for a lot of folks. It's not enough. I was getting texts from friends saying, you need to stand up and scream, you need to boo. I do still feel like I want to, I want to think through the most effective way to fight back, and the most effective way to call out lies, and the most effective way to preserve our democracy. I will tell you, I'm also open to lots of ideas. Like I mentioned early on, I got a lot of feedback that we should just all boycott. But I've explained to you, it doesn't mean the seats remain empty. In fact, seats get backfilled with partisan supporters of the president instead. But ultimately, I will tell you, the speech, and I felt it was important to walk you all through the strategy and what I had been thinking. The speech, though, is in many ways the least of our problems and the least of our challenges. We are seeing Democratic backsliding in terms of a president who doesn't respect the Constitution, doesn't respect the laws that were passed by Congress, and a president who has installed an unelected bureaucrat, who he criticizes unelected bureaucrats, but he installed one and gave him the most power, Elon Musk, a billionaire who is helping eliminate tens of thousands, if not ultimately hundreds of thousands of jobs. And I think it is very, very important that we continue to call that out and inform the public. I saw polling this morning that shows that the majority of Americans support the cuts that DOJ is announcing. We all, starting with me and members of Congress, but also with many of you who are active on social media and who are active in social circles, we all have to call out the lies and speak the truth. We cannot let misinformation and disinformation prevail. I am doing everything I can and will continue to do everything I can. Those cuts of those jobs do not just impact those individuals who are fired. Those cuts and those jobs represent people's access to services, access to programs, access to care. So you've seen the reporting, I hope, of the tens of thousands of jobs at the VA that Elon Musk and Donald Trump want to cut. I have seen veterans or alleged veterans on social media cheering that on. Guess what? That means cuts to your care. That means it will take you longer to access care that you earned and that you deserved. These are not nameless, faceless people. These are people who serve us, who serve you. So we've got a lot going on, obviously, and I will tell you, I agree with everyone who says we need to do more. I agree. And I am looking at every avenue, every opportunity to be as thoughtful and as strategic as possible. And I ask that you join us in doing that. Continue to call your representatives, your senators. If you have great ideas, send them our way. Many times there are ideas that realistically, like the large swaths of people boycotting, there are real life consequences and outcomes of that I want to share with you and make sure you know about. But I also, again, really appreciate the engagement. I really appreciate that all of you are paying attention. I share your alarm. I share I see what you see. I am seeing everything that you see. And I want you to know I'm doing everything I possibly can to stop it. I am in this with you, and I'll keep you posted. Thank you, you all.